proszę.
Results were so good that it's really difficult to find a weak spot. So maybe there's a question that you would like us to ask. The ball is on your side.
You mean you are asking me what we think were the weak spots?
What question would you like to hear? Okay, I'm kidding. A little bit. Corporate lending. This is the pace of growth that we have not seen for quite a while. And is this driven by particular type of lending sector, or you see widespread interest in corporate lending from your corporate clients? And what's driving this very good score in the second quarter?
It's not consistent in all the quarters, but looking back, we are growing. If not 10%, it's 9% per year. So it's more or less, the last 3 years we have been growing more or less, if I remember well, in the same speed. It's true that sometimes in a quarter it's not, probably yes. We are keep the same, so it's very much mid-corporate. There is not a big concentration in a sector, so it's industries, manufacturing, so it goes a lot about this. Even you see that it's a lot with some factoring, some leasing always. I think it's have been, we do not see any specific sector, so we are not known as a big ticket real estate development, so it's obvious that it's not there.
You can always keep track about what we are doing because we are providing the breakdown of the structure by sectors of the exposure to corporate that is in our financial report. Regarding spreads, we have seen stable spreads regarding overall corporate exposure during the last few quarters. So this increase does not trigger a compression of the spreads in the portfolio.
Coming back to the original question, is this, I mean, I don't know if there's any trend, but do you see greater interest in working capital loans, or these are investment loans, or is it like a blend, the usual, there's no trend, or do you see any trend?
In the market, overall, starting with the market, overall, we do not see a lot of demand for investment loans. In the appendix to the presentation, even you can see one in the slides about the evolution of loans to companies, and it's on the page 23. And if you see on page 23, even it is visible that overall corporate loans growing at 6% year on year, but specifically investment loans, 0 growth. So from this side, this is not helping the overall growth. So in fact, the demand tends to be more on normal working capital. Does not mean that we do not have investment loans as well, but the overall market conditions are not being very supportive for investment loans growth. But again, this is, I think, the most important is that this is not dependent on just one ticket. This is something that we look to be sustainable. It's always more volatile than in retail. So there are some quarters in corporate where the market grows faster, others less, but generally the trend was good.
A bit broader, but I mean, you have already achieved the intra-year targets of origination in cash loans and mortgages. I mean, this is what you guided us, or aspirations they were named. The market is red hot, it seems. But doesn't it worry you? I mean, how long can the market continue at this pace? I mean, have any resemblance to the previous cycle at all? Red lights start to flash, or we're not there yet?
So we achieved exactly what you said. So we achieved already our ambitions, internal ambitions in the production of these both products. So we should expect now that we will be working at these levels for a while. So it's not. We did not make any change in terms of risk models. We did not introduce any new approach. So it's we are doing what we have done up to now. We even had a discussion in terms of mortgage if we could try to be more efficient, because to make these levels we had to also to increase the head count in risk and monitoring and everything. And we decided not to do, because today we are benefiting of good decisions that we took in the past in terms of mortgage. Even in Swiss franc portfolio, we never had an issue of credit risk. It's more a regulatory risk or and these kind of things. So we decided not to do it. So we think that what we are doing at the moment, we are in the safe side. Of course, if suddenly there is a depression in Poland, unemployment and something, of course we will have consequences. But mainly we are making the same type of loans that we were doing. So in terms of mortgage and in terms of consumer loans. So we are making loans to our existing customer database. Even we had the increase of production because we try to be more aggressive in terms of new to product. We had an analysis that some of our existing customers, and especially the ones with the better risk, were making loans in other banks. So we try to be a little bit more or acting with the promotional prices to customers that were not making loans with us, and that usually they look for shorter turners. And but at the moment there is we are looking for vintage, we are looking for indications, we are looking for behaviors in the beginning of the process, and we don't see any signal of deterioration. And we are still positive for the Polish economy, so we are not seeing this cycle.
Of these cash loans, remember we touched upon the subject of you entering a bit new customer base being not your current client. I mean, has this started? Is still a project that you...
We are not, we tried and we are not good at. We are better to have, to go to our customers, and even the ones that are not using consumer loans, and trying to offer them consumer loans. We are now making new analytical models for trying to see the propensity of customers that do not buy cash loans or never bought cash loans with us and for the first time. But we are always with projects to new to bank customers, let's call it, but we are not successful there. I don't remember by heart what is the percentage of new to bank, but it's below 5%.
Maybe on this, if I may continue, because I'm trying to compare your notes when you write about changes in your risk management processes, and when it comes to corporate, you added here a comment that you have verified some limits for sectors. At least this is what is being said, and I wondered, was this material, and have you closed to some branches or have you opened to some other branches?
We have a regular process of analyzing the sectors and to assess them by, to classify them by risk rankings. So meaning that we are always defining which are the high risk sectors, medium risk and low risk. This is not a static definition. So this is updated every quarter, every 6 months. And this allows us to also to give indications to the business and to the risk, where we should be more careful. This does not mean that when we classify a high-risk sector that we do not give any credit to companies from that sector, but it's a warning that if we do, that some additional scrutiny must be done, or sometimes we already are doing this scrutiny because we have relations with companies that work in those sectors, and then it's we have much more information, and we are much more comfortable in continuing to give credit to those companies. So this is a regular process, in which we try to combine macroeconomic information about bankruptcies that are happening in the sector, and a number of other indicators, because in order to try to prevent situations that may then happen in the future, because the most important is not only this growth that we are showing, is also to preserve the asset quality that we have been able to show through time. So this is not something new. It's something that we do on a regular basis, which is helpful to guide the sales effort on the corporate side and to guide the proper management of the portfolio.
And also you said something that you have updated the maximum DTIs for retail clients, and the way how you approach other liabilities of clients than loans. At least this is what it says here in the. And my question is whether you are more risk averse, or whether you are more open to take on risk, or or maybe those two changes are neutral to your risk appetite. Just.
Again, this is what is written there is always a very generic description, because we cannot enter into
but it
details.
differs much from what you have wrote in the first quarter. So.
Yes. It's more. Maybe people are trying to show that they worked more in the second quarter. I don't know. But no. But seriously, this just means that we always have to fine tune the approach. Sometimes as a consequence of conclusions that we take about the monitoring of our existing portfolios, sometimes because of regulatory reasons, because there are, as you know, there are always recommendations issued by the regulator about specific points, and this is a permanent process of fine-tuning and updates that needs to be done. So it's not in one direction that we are tightening DTIs or widening DTIs. There are many things that need to be taken into consideration. So this is a very generic description, but it's something that we have to do on a regular basis.
Okay, so Darek asked me to ask questions, so I must do it. So maybe one question. Could you provide us any information on this, or comment regarding speculation of press regarding your involvement in M&A processes in the Polish banking sector, or you just don't want to comment this issue?
In all of his years, in every quarter, we always just talk about financial results and business results, and we always did. We will always do it. So, but just in terms of business, I think that I also don't want to have here the wrong impression. So we are not saying that we are too conservative. I think we are quite aggressive in terms of behavior models for our existing customers. So it's not. So what we are not very good is, and sometimes we are more conservative, is when we don't know the customers. But if you are our clients, and I expect yes, for sure you will have already quite aggressive credit proposals from the bank, because when we have the salary, when we know the spending, when we have information, we believe we are quite competitive in terms of proper aggressiveness in terms of risk proposals that we are making. And the same thing in terms of corporate. So when we like a sector and when we are confident to a sector, we believe that we have the right but also the aggressive credit proposal for the company.
So maybe one question on cost of funding, cost of deposit. Because WBK yesterday mentioned that they see increasing cost of deposits. Today, during the previous conference, you also mentioned. Do you think it's more like temporary due to some promotional offers from the banks, or it's rather some beginning of the new trend for the couple of quarters?
I think this year, it starts the first quarter also. It was we were expecting there is always some pressure for some window dressing or something at the end of the year. So in the first quarter we were already a little bit surprised because there was not a decrease, or at least the decrease was not so strong in terms of competitive pressure in terms of pricing. But in the second quarter we were even more surprised because instead of having a flat situation, we had a very aggressive competitive environment for deposits. There is no reasons in terms of perspective of interest rates, at least by the guidance that is being announced by NBP. Somehow we are surprised. Also, you saw that in second quarter we were flat, so we were not taking part here. We hope that this trend will disappear. But when we think about ourselves, we think that our net interest income will increase more by the lending part than the improvement of the price of deposits. We hope that not by deterioration, but it will be. The growth of net interest income will come by the lending part that is doing very well.
Can I just ask about your latest announcement about increasing the framework of the bond program from 2 to 3 billion? Is there should we expect any Tier 2 issue? And what would be the trigger for that, maybe?
So first, as a reminder, so this is a bond program that we have already since 2015 had a limit of issuance of up to 2 billion, of which up to 1 billion of subordinated bonds. So we decided to update the program with two main changes. One is the increase of the overall maximum amount up to 3 billion. And also eliminating the sub-limit to subordinated debt. So in fact, we now have the full options of choosing the type of bonds that we want to issue up to the 3 billion threshold. Last year, as you remember, we issued subordinated bonds in November, December with the amount of 700 million. So in fact, it was meaning that we had only available for issuance 300 million. So now we eliminated this restriction. The capital structure that you can see on page 9 and the capital ratios that you can see on page 9 show that we still have tighter surplus, although it's very wide surplus, but still we still have tighter surplus in total capital ratio than in Tier 1. So we still, in theory, can improve the capital structure, because also to have the complete space to distribute dividends from the moment when it will be possible. And so by doing this, we open more options for the future in terms of issuance of senior bonds, subordinated bonds, and also in the future bonds that will be eligible for MREL, although this is still a far, let's say, medium long-term thing. And if you ask me about potential issuance of subordinated debt in the near future, this is an open issue, because we are looking at market conditions, and if we will see that market conditions are good, we may come again to the market to further strengthen our Tier 2 capital in a proper market environment. So this is still. This is a possibility, although no decision has been taken yet.
Could you comment something about your cost of risk? Because actually it was the only line in your P&L which surprised positively this quarter, and your cost of risk was lower than in the first one, which is quite unusual in the sector. So you are now below 50 bips, which was your lower bound of guided range. So do you expect this to maintain to the end of the year?
So here we are benefiting from good performance of the different portfolios. I remember that 1 or 2 quarters ago, when we were speaking about IFRS 9 implementation, that I said that we were going to learn with the standard, right? Because this is a standard that is different from the previous, that tends to be more volatile. The IFRS 9 standard was introduced at a very specific moment where the situation in Poland is very good, right? So as a consequence, there are not significant triggers that of the deterioration of the portfolios that would trigger a faster creation of provisions for credit risk. And so, and the situation was still like this in the second quarter, and as a consequence, the overall cost of risk was relatively low. I mean, looking for the future, we still think that most likely situation is that through time we will come back to this 50 to 60 basis points range, even because we are increasing also the portfolio of consumer loans, which tends to be higher cost of risk. Not very high, to be honest, but of course it's always clearly higher than this average that we are showing. So through time we should come back to that range. For the time being, we have not been facing situations both in retail and in corporate that could trigger this increase of provisions. But I think we will tend again to come back to that to a level of around 50 basis points.
Can I just follow up on the corporate segment, because there was a decline in NPL ratio, and as well the cost of risk in the corporate sector was very low this quarter. Was there any sale of the portfolio or any recovery, like a bigger case recovery in there?
No, we did not sell any NPLs in the recent past, and of course there was an increase of the denominator, right, during the quarter as well. That also helps a little, this ratio, but I don't remember any specific situation that. No, I don't remember anything special. So. I think the most important is that we have not been facing new cases that are deteriorating this ratio. This is, I think, of course, we never. But the situation in the recent past has really been good. We have been able to prevent some cases before they happen. So.
Maybe just follow up on the fee income. At the beginning of the year, you were quite optimistic about the outlook for the fee income. And then this quarter, we see a decline in the insurance and lending related fees. I hear you mention that this tend to be slower in the second quarter of the year, but it dropped below the levels we saw in the second half of 2017, and yet you had new volumes growing at a very high speed, both in retail and corporates.
Yes, so here I think what we can say is that the major in year on year, the picture is being depressed by decrease in the fees coming from investment products. So as I said, we had the combination of implementation of MiFID, which I think was done very properly, but there is always some consequence in terms of the sales, at least in the beginning. Then we had some market correction here, which also did not help. And both in terms of equity market, but also some turbulence recently in the bond market also did not help. And as a consequence, we were not able to grow sales of investment products as we were expecting, and this is affecting the year-on-year comparison, and that's the reason why we are only growing 2% year-on-year. Because investment products fees fell 7% year-on-year. If we exclude these, when we look at the things that are more regular, more connected with the daily transactions of customers, they are clearly growing, especially the fees connected with accounts and transfers. They are growing very relevantly year-on-year. Loan fees, mortgage-related loan fees are also growing. Bank assurance fees also higher year-on-year, although they dropped in the quarter. So generally, the picture about commissions, when we go item by item, is relatively good. But one or two relevant items, especially these investment products, are not helping to the picture year-on-year. Going forward, we still keep, as part of our strategy, this focus on investment products. We believe that through time, part of customer funds will be directed to investment products that will help to support the growth of fees in this segment, even if on the other side we may have some tightening of the average fees depending on the asset classes through time. So we are still betting that, looking at the medium-term trends, that people should have part of their savings also invested in investment products, but which is a little bit, but you don't see this in the recent past, because even if you look at the statistics of deposits in the second quarter, deposits of households increased significantly in the second quarter. So it shows that people are still, despite the low interest rates, a lot of people are still leaving their money in deposits and not risking shifting part of the money to investment products.
I'm trying to estimate the excess equity you might have, and you are presenting on the slide 9 this 6% point excess over the minimum requirement, which would imply around 2 billion of excess Tier 1 capital. But I wonder if you could remind us what the level are you aiming at? Would you feel comfortable when operating at the levels close to the minimum required by regulator, or do you have some internal additional buffer to what they are? I wonder how far could you go down from this?
You need to remember that also, if we want to grow the loan portfolio, we will consume this capital, and we really want to grow the loan portfolio. So it's at the moment we have liquidity and capital that would allow us to grow the loan portfolio.
But at the same time, you have some net income.
But we hope that sooner than later we will start to distribute dividends. So we have been here penalized by the orientations that we have received by the supervision, but our ideal model since the beginning, we are saying, is to distribute at least between 50 to 35 and to be able to have enough investments in the business to modernize, but also to allocate capital in the and you saw we grew a little bit the portfolio and we fall 1% in the capital. So the trend, if we start to have a normal distribution of dividends, and if we keep this pace, also we are able to consume this capital quite fast.
On the other side, we also have to remember that the capital thresholds have not been stable. Right? If you look back at the last 3 or 4 years, it was a running process, right? Capital thresholds increasing, and we increasing as well the capital ratios, always in a very safe way. Of course, we are very much above, but you have to remember that we could not distribute dividends still from the last year, which was already our intention. So that's why this is also more inflated, and we made the Tier 2 on the top of it. But I think the Tier 2 is obvious that we should have and take advantage of the current market conditions. Of course, there are still some this is still going to be updated during the second half of the year. We will still have the decision about the OC buffer, which probably will be dropped for us. But it's 25 basis points, and it's not forever, because, you know, we are on, there is a border, and so we may be out during 1 year, but then if we grow, we will be again in. So but again, it will increase the surplus again by 25 basis points, and we will have another update of the capital buffers, Pillar 2, in the second half of the year. So that's why we have not worked with stable thresholds in the recent past. But of course, we will try to manage this more efficiently, especially also for the purpose of ROE, right? Because of course this is depressing the level of ROE, because we should have an ROE clearly above 10%, and we are at 9.5, right? Because of the fact that we have significant excess of capital.
Our questions more here. Maybe in the meantime, I refer to questions which we got from internet. I think most of them we already answered, like cost of risk, guidance, for instance, but maybe to finish the issue with fee income, yes, because we talked about increased sale of investment products, but the question is, where do we see our fee income performance in the second half of 18 versus 2% growth in first half 18? Partially, I think we referred to investment products, but maybe overall.
I think that the second quarter did not have significant one-offs on fees and commissions. So I mean, you can use the second quarter as, let's say, as a base. We will try to improve it, but this is I think a reference level for what can come in the near future.
Thank you. And there is also a question from Raiffeisen about liquidity. Flat deposit growth against 5% loan growth in the quarter. What is the reasoning behind, and is it only a temporary issue?
Yeah.
The reason is the price of deposits that were very expensive in second quarter.
We had FX depreciation, which increased the FX mortgage portfolio by 3% during the quarter, which is not usual in the recent quarters. And of course, it's already partially being reversed. So again, 84%, 82% is not efficient, also for P&L. I think it's everybody's aware about this. So we could reach better, but we expect to reach that better, not by decreasing the deposit base, but by raising the loan portfolio, bringing through time loan to deposits closer to the Polish average, although we are still far from that. So this is, I think, the good news from this for management is that we have a lot of space to grow without putting pressure on the price that we need to pay for our deposits. And I think this is the most important consequence of having this picture on the loan to deposits, that we do not have any pressure to overpay in deposits. Of course, we would like to grow our market share in deposits, especially in retail, of course, but we want to do it in a sustainable way, not just by paying more.
Thank you. So this was the last question from internet. Are there still any questions here from the room?
Yes,
Darek?
there's always silver lining. So there's a new reality, which is narrowing operating jaws. And how do you think they will develop? And any steps you think you can take? Because you control costs very well, but it doesn't help your operating jaws to contract because revenue growth is slowing.
I mean, I think we have been clear that what we have been facing is higher pressure in terms of staff costs. I think all the sector is facing one way or the other. I think in our case it's more obvious because we already did the branch optimization several years ago. So when I look at the picture, I still see some banks still reducing their physical network, while we already reduced through a period of 5 years almost 100 branches, right? So it's we have more limited space to further cut the physical presence, at least at a strong pace. And so, of course, this will not help the overall cost control, with the exception that we are still despite that, we have been able to reduce the overall cost of the physical presence. But we basically will try to keep costs under very strict control, and we hope that the business plan that we have shown and the business targets that we have shown recently will help through time to bring this growth of revenues clearly stronger than the cost growth. This is our plan. But we are not counting, of course, with cost cutting. So just to be clear, not in the nearest future. We don't see that it is possible to happen.
Any other questions? I don't see, also from internet. So thank you, everybody, for participating. We wish you a pleasant the rest of summer, who is still before holidays, with the same weather like so far. And see you with us, I hope, in the third quarter results conference. Thank you.